All right, men, serious talk. All right, this is very, very serious. So we are turning into biological females. I said it. I mean, it's what's happening. We're losing our manhood, 100%. In this modern society, men are not men anymore, for the most part. And there's a lot of reasons this is happening. All right, so if you don't know, I have another channel on YouTube, and it's all about health and wellness and stuff. That's actually one of the main reasons. It is the main reason I started making YouTube videos, is because I had my health completely destroyed and I fixed myself. But through that experience, I learned a lot of stuff about health. And one of the things I learned along the way is that men are literally, all right, it's no exaggeration, we're turning into biological females. Our testosterone now is 30% what it used to be like a couple decades ago. They're saying that by 2050, men's testosterone is going to be statistically zero. All right, so if that's not clicking for you yet, that really means that by 2050, we could be on the verge of societal collapse, because without females and males, we don't have a functioning society because we can't reproduce. Well, there's a few reasons this is happening, and the best part about this, if there is a silver lining to any of this, is that it's 100% preventable. Every single one of us. You, me, the people around us, all of us men collectively, doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, none of that stuff matters. This is about men in general. We all have the power to change this. We can go a different direction. We can reverse the course of societal collapse. And I think that's a very important thing if we can make that happen. So how do we do that? Number one of the biggest influences that's causing the feminization of men is the food that we're consuming. Hyper-processed food, all this toxic stuff. It's going to sound crazy, but it literally is toxic. There's a lot of estrogen promoting stuff in food these days. And if you're eating a standard American diet, it is 100% taking your testosterone, whether you want to believe it or not. But I can tell you with 100% certainty, because of what I went through with my health, it is 100% a fact. And I'm not just talking about me, I'm talking about other people I've helped along the way also, who have seen dramatic hormonal changes just by cleaning up their diet. And the things you want to eat, if you want to get rid of all these estrogen promoting foods and eat things that are going to boost your testosterone, is fatty red meat, number one. Saturated fat and cholesterol actually are very important for hormone health. So you want to focus on that, and you also want to focus on protein, which is meat, not soy and plant-based products and stuff like that, because all that stuff is estrogen promoting. You want to eat meat. We're men, all right? We eat meat. We hunt animals and we eat meat. That's what we've done throughout all of history. So that is very, very important. Get rid of all the hyper-processed crap, all of the Monster energy drinks, stop smoking vapes, stop smoking and drinking in general, but vapes specifically are also linked to tanking a man's testosterone. So that's going to help you out if you can get off that. So in general, to make a long story short, clean up your diet. Stop eating all this junk food. If you can lose weight and you can improve your body composition and you can put on more lean body mass and just be healthier in general, your hormones are going to thank you. Something else I learned along the way, and this is a little bit more of a lifestyle change, but I've also learned that when you surround yourself with women, your testosterone naturally goes up. And that makes sense because it's a biological trait. I think it's ingrained in our DNA. When we surround ourselves with women, it would make sense that our testosterone would go up. That way we can mate with the women and we can reproduce. And I'm not saying that you have to date or be in a relationship or marry or any of that stuff, but if you can surround yourself with people of the opposite sex, your hormones are going to change. Your testosterone is going to go up. I've also found that to be true for myself, because when I'm completely alone, my libido just kind of flatlines. I don't really have a sexual desire, and I can tell that my testosterone probably isn't as optimal as it could be. But when I'm around a lot of women, or women in general, my libido goes up. And again, that really makes sense from a biological perspective. Something else that's really going to help us take our manhood back is stop letting people walk all over you. All right, I see this all the time, and I've fallen victim to this stuff too. But if you let people walk all over you, I'm talking about like at work, in relationships, anywhere in life, family members, friends, any of that kind of stuff, that is taking away your manhood. Because as men, we're meant to be leaders. We're meant to stand up for ourselves. We're meant to push back and fight back and stand up for what's right. That is one of the things that makes us men. And when you let people walk all over you, let's say that you're in a relationship and you let your partner just completely control you. They tell you what you can and can't do, what you can and can't say. If you have hobbies or things you enjoy, suddenly you can't do them because they say you can't. That is stripping you of your manhood. That is you not being a leader. And that feeds into this whole feminization of men. As men, we should be strong. We should have a strong frame and hold our own. But if you're letting people walk all over you, then you're really not doing that. And that applies to our jobs too, because when it comes to our jobs, a lot of times we just let ourselves get walked all over. We think we have to do everything we're told, and we never push back. We never stand up for ourselves. Even if we're being worked to the bone and we don't have a work-life balance and our life is miserable, we think we have to do it because the employer says so. And we never stand up for ourselves. We never push back. And then before you know it, we're depressed. We hate our jobs, we hate our lives, and that can be a really difficult hole to climb out of. So moral of the story is, one of the best things we can do for ourselves is to just stand up for ourselves. Don't be a pushover. Don't let people walk all over you. Something else that kind of ties into that is learning how to do manly stuff. In our modern society, we've become very incompetent when it comes to a lot of things. I mean, if you think back 50 years ago, men in general kind of knew how to be handyman. They had certain skills. They knew how to change a tire. They knew how to check their oil. They could fix stuff around the house. They were very self-sufficient. But in the modern era, we become very reliant on external factors. We take our car to the shop. We call somebody to do small, tedious things around the house that we simply don't have the knowledge to do. And don't attack me just yet, because I'm not necessarily saying that you have to know how to do these things to be considered a man. I'm just saying that when you know these things and you're less reliant on all these external factors, that makes you more of a leader and more of a provider. Because if you have a family, specifically a wife and kids, and something happens and they need your help, if you're not able to help them because you're lacking all of these vital skills and you have to call on somebody else every single time you need something, that is not necessarily a good thing. I mean, if you're a guy and you don't even know how to change a tire on your own car, I really don't know what to say about that. It's kind of a bad thing, because as men, we should know this stuff. We should know how to get by in life. That is essentially our role. That is our job. Because if you're a man and you don't know how to change a tire or check your oil or do basic things around the house, that is not a good scenario. And that's also going to lead to you throwing away a lot more money, because if you can't do anything for yourself and you have to rely on somebody else every single time you need something, you're going to be burning through a lot of cash in life. And if you really can't do things for yourself and you're throwing all your money away because of that, are you really being a good provider? I guess what I'm trying to say here is that we've gotten extremely soft. The backbone and the infrastructure of this country was built on the backs of hardworking, strong men. And that is a fact. There was a time in the not so distant past when we were out hunting animals and fighting bears. And now in the modern age, we lose our freaking minds if we can't find our chocolate cherry vanilla vape, or if we can't get our almond milk at the grocery store. We have a mental breakdown. If somebody says something that offends us, it hurts our feelings and we cry about it. But a lot of this ties into the fact that we're being demasculated. We're being led to believe that we don't need to be masculine, that it's toxic for us to be that way. And we're also being pumped full of all kinds of toxic chemicals, from everything from our food to our water supply, that is tanking our testosterone. And it is literally turning us into biological females. And these things are literally chiseling away at what it means for us to be men. So the best thing that we can do for ourselves is to rid ourselves of all these toxins and all this bad stuff we're being inundated with every single day, and also realize that having masculinity is not anything to be ashamed of, and it's not toxic. It's necessary. And speaking of hard work and hunting animals and fighting bears, that brings up another really good point, is that if you want to boost your testosterone and you really want to increase your hormone function and optimize your health overall, go outside, stick your feet in the dirt, expose yourself to the sunlight. That is extremely important, because in the modern world, we go from a box to a box to a box, and we never step foot outside. Not like we used to, because back in the day, we were outside all the time. Now in this modern world, we literally go from our house to our cars to work, and then we repeat that process to come home and in pretty much everything else that we do. So the time that we spend outdoors being uncomfortable, being hot, being cold, exposing ourselves to the sunlight, is very, very small. And now we're led to believe that the sun is bad for us. So now we slather toxic chemicals all over our skin, which further degrades our health. And not getting sunlight, not getting sun exposure, not being uncomfortable, not exposing yourself to the elements like we have throughout all of history is going to tank our testosterone, and that's probably part of the problem of what we're seeing today. And then couple that with plastics and microplastics and all the toxic stuff we're exposed to on a daily basis, and it's a recipe for disaster. So it's no wonder that men's testosterone is in the tank and is 30% of what it used to be. And if we continue on these trends and follow these, these ideologies that we're led to believe and all these agendas, it's going to continue to be in the tank, and we'll probably end up realizing that prediction of men's testosterone being statistically zero by 2050. Something else that is stripping us of our masculinity is pornography and social media. That is the most horrible thing that you could possibly consume if you want to continue to be masculine. And I can tell you that 100% from experience, because I've fallen victim to that trap, and there were many, many years where I consumed pornography, and as that progressed, I eventually lost my sex drive. I lost my libido, and that is specifically true for my sex drive and my libido towards actual women and not women on a screen, because when you're consuming that type of content, it overstimulates you. It releases a tremendous amount of dopamine, and then trying to find that in the real world, something that can replicate what is on the screen, is virtually impossible. And that is an absolutely terrible thing that can lead to your testosterone going in the tank. It can lead to your sex drive and your motivation in general just degrading. From my experience, you as a man will degrade in general if you consume pornography on a regular basis. And when I refer to pornography, I'm also talking about OnlyFans. I'm talking about any kind of virtual content that objectifies women. That also includes social media, because there's a lot of really raunchy social media profiles out there. And let's not forget online dating. If you're on online dating not to actually go on dates, but just to seek validation and swipe on attractive women, that is not doing you any favors as a man. It's essentially the same kind of hyperstimulation that is stimulating a dopamine release, and it's going to degrade your masculinity. These are all things that have been normalized in our modern society that we've fallen victim to. And because we've fallen victim to these things, it is essentially stripping us of our manhood and feminizing us. And something else that's fundamentally important, and probably more important than all this other stuff I'm mentioning in this video, is that we need to quell the division. I mean, let's think about it. Part of being a man and part of being a human in general is being able to create. It's being able to build something. You look back through all of history, and there were very influential males that were building community. They were building tribes. They were building very powerful movements. In some cases, they were building significant and lasting change, but we can't do that now because we're so divided about every freaking thing. We cannot build community because we're all divided. We can't even have a cordial conversation with one another because there's nothing we can agree on. So the best thing that we can do is quell this division. Stop worrying about and stressing about all the petty stuff in life that does not freaking matter. Again, we're falling for this division. All this stuff is 100% by design. And I'm not saying any of this stuff to pin the blame on somebody else so that we don't have to take responsibility for our actions. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of this division comes from the media. It comes from other sources outside us. We see all this stuff happening around us, and it's designed to get us fired up. It's designed to make us mad at each other. So if we want to reclaim our manhood and we want to get our masculinity back, we need to stop falling for all this nonsense, stop being so divided, and build a tribe, build a community of like-minded people. We need to come together over common interests. We need to reestablish that brotherhood and stop being divided over stupid, superficial things that don't actually matter. There's also a major agenda out there to make us believe that our masculinity is toxic and that we should feel bad about being a man. But being a man is a very natural thing, and it's a part of the human experience. There's always going to be men and there's always going to be women. The only reason this agenda exists is because they fear strong men. They fear what we're capable of, and especially when strong men stand for what they believe in and we unite. By degrading masculinity and making us feel like we should be ashamed of being a man is all just a ploy to weaken us and to control us. That's what it's all about. So under no circumstances should we ever feel bad about being a man or having masculine traits. That is actually a good thing. That's what we want as men. It makes sense that if you're a man, that you're masculine and that you're not feminine. And it's kind of crazy that this stuff even has to be said, But here we are, and this just goes to show you how far we've fallen. And one of the most fundamental parts of being a man is finding your purpose and chasing after it. But that can be kind of tough in the modern world because we're often focused on the wrong stuff. And over the years, I've made some realizations about what's actually important in life. And if you want to hear about what those realizations are, click on this video right here.